Grand Rising, everyone. Like Charles
Grand
said, Grand
Rising.
Rising family. How are we doing? Uh, it is Sunday, September 21st already. A little after 11 a.m. This is Ron, and we'll see if we open up with questions. I was waiting for Pastor because I don't think we're done with where we were yesterday. But any thoughts or questions on anything that we discussed on yesterday? No one? Okay. Pastor has some things he was gonna bring to us. Uh, the interesting thing with me is I usually during the week and especially around Friday or so kind of feel where we are and trying to see what we need to talk about. And anymore, it's not a place where I can kind of plan a lesson like that anymore. It just doesn't happen like that anymore. So uh I invite you, and especially the teachers, if you guys see something that interests you or something that you think needs our attention, please bring it up. Uh, we're just seems like at a different place. The world is at a different place now. So, but anyway, thoughts or questions before we turn it over to Pastor? Okay, sir.
Grand Rising, everyone.
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising.
Um, I wanted to see if there were any questions um, from what we talked about yesterday or any comments from it. Okay. Um, Basically, what we talked about yesterday was the idea of um, of people being punished for the speech that or the comments that they made in regards to the death of Charlie Kirk. There may be some of you who think that this is just a news item and it carries no real spiritual significance. However, I hope that um, some of what, if not all of what we talked about, has shown you the spiritual necessity in our reading the signs of the times in regards to this. Um, if you notice, as someone said, I believe yesterday, that no one paid any attention to the people being terminated for what they said until Jimmy Kimmel got sidelined, was terminated for what he said. Well, we act like this is something new when it really isn't. Most of you, if not all, are familiar with hopefully the Sedition Act of 1798 or the Sedition Act of 1918. The Sedition Act will give you an idea by its name that this is about somebody rebelling against the government, but it really wasn't. And the Sedition Act of 1798 was proposed by John Adams in order for him not to be criticized because of the rift that he had with France. And you could actually be jailed for criticizing his stance on the action with France. The Federalist Party was in charge of the Congress, and it did what it did in order to silence anyone who was opposed to what he was doing. More recently, in 1918, Woodrow Wilson signed a Sedition Act that said that if you said anything against the flag, the Constitution, or the military, you could be fined $10,000 or spend 5 to 20 years in prison. So, what does this have to do with what we are talking about today? It has everything to do with it, because there has never in the history of this country been free speech. Free speech has always been afforded to those who are in control, but never to those of us who had black faces and some whites who were poor. And if you notice what happened this time, it's the same principle that was applied. And the Washington Post only had one blackface who was doing the opinion editorial, and she was terminated, I think, yesterday or day before yesterday, because of statements. So what I'm saying in essence is this: when we look at the nature of this country, there has never been free speech in this country. There has never been freedom of the press in this country, because along with the speech clauses in the Sedition Act of both 1798 as well as 1918, no one was permitted to print or to publish or distribute anything that was an affront or that was speaking against the government. In the case of Woodrow Wilson, it listed that this act was actually aimed at socialists, pacifists, anybody on the quote unquote today's left. So throughout history, the freedom of speech has always been abridged when it came to people who are considered leftists or people who stand in defiance to the government that is conservative or racist, more like racist than conservative, because conservative is just another word for racist. So how do we deal with this, knowing that this is a problem? Well, first of all, we don't deal with it at all. We allow it to be what it is. Why? Because this is a battle between wealthy folks, white men in particular, who are battling over this idea of free speech. The Supreme Court in both cases of these Sedition Act, especially one with Woodrow Wilson, said that Woodrow Wilson had the authority to do that. In subsequent years, of course, they retracted that, but during that period in the 20s, I believe it was. Yeah, it was. Woodrow Wilson, 1918, Woodrow Wilson had the right to do that. And this was in reference to the reason the U.S. attacked Germany in World War I. So how do we deal with it? We deal with it the same way that we have dealt with everything else. What we need to probably keep in mind is that when verbal speech is abridged, when you are punished for what you say, what you write, what you publish, then that means there's only one speech left. The more that verbal speech is abridged, the louder spiritual speech the loudest spiritual voices speak. And what I mean by that is the loudness of the spiritual voices that we are hearing. Those voices are voices that we don't hear audibly. We hear them through spiritual beings, because we're spiritual beings. And we say that we hear them internally. But what we are actually saying is that the speech of the world of spirituality is different than the speech of the world of this physical world, the material world. The speech of spirituality is spoken through experiences, through feelings, through voices that are unheard, but yet clearly understood. And sometimes those voices, or the message that those voices bring to us, is not even truly heard until we begin to audibly speak. And when we speak audibly, that is when those voices that have spoken to us either in our sleep, during meditation, or when we simply just are awake, that's when we truly hear what is being said. And right now, we are experiencing the messages from these spiritual voices, and the reason that we are able to sustain ourselves in the midst of all these efforts to annihilate us is because of the spiritual essence of who we are. The current atmosphere that we live in says to us that we should be speaking out. And the reason the current environment is saying that we as a people should be speaking out is because that would give the governmental authorities an opportunity to make us a target and shift everybody's focus to us. For example, if we were to get in the street about this free speech issue, then all our attention would be directed towards us, and the very people who are white people in particular, who are protesting this, would not be in the line of fire with us. We would be the ones who are bearing the brunt of it, knowing that we have never, ever had free speech from the beginning of this nation. We've never had free speech as a people. The idea of free speech was never applied to those of African descent. And the white people in this country would go back home and sit and watch the TV as we are being brutalized. So the ancestors have spoken, and those who don't even know about ancestors, or who are very much unaware of ancestors, and those who are in churches who say it's demonic, the ancestors even spoke to them as well. And that is the reason we don't have churches, and we don't have social organizations, we don't have political organizations organizing in the streets for demonstrations and stuff, voicing our resistance to what is being done in this environment. The ancestors have a way of speaking that reaches everyone, even though they do not believe that ancestors exist in the manner that we know they exist. So what they're saying is that no man left behind, no one left behind, regardless of how adverse Christianity and Islam and Judaism are against the idea of ancestral guidance, the ancestors still speaks to them as well. So why is it so prominent now that the ancestors speak as loudly as they do? It is because there are people who are housed in bodies who are willing not only to hear what the voices of the ancestors, but are also willing to be the conduit through which these voices reaches rather the rest of our people in particular, keeping us where we are in terms of on our couches watching what's going on, as opposed to being in the midst of it and being brutalized as a result. Right now, we are experiencing the martyrdom of races. And you may ask, why is it and how is it that people can make a martyr out of someone who is so racist and divisive, and someone who is so misogynistic, especially against African females? Why is it that you are terminated? Simply, the lady at Washington Post was terminated because she made a quote. She wrote a quote that Charlie Kirk said. All she wrote was the message that he said about Black women not having, prominent Black women not having the mental capacity to make decisions. That's the gist of it. And she was terminated for that. So there is an effort put forth that looks like these people are being terminated because of what they said. No, these are excuses to remove people who look like us from a space where messaging is received. And what is happening as a result of that is the media is not being believed anymore. More and more people are walking away from the media because they understand that it is controlled by those who seek to control us. The other thing about this idea of free speech is that right now, before Congress, there is a bill that says if you speak against Israel or if you say anything about Jews, you can be terminated from your job or you can actually be arrested. Has it gone into place yet? No, but it's there. And there are those who are in Congress who are pushing that bill. So the question becomes, why is it that it's Israel? It is because Jews, AIPAC in particular, owns Congress, regardless of who it is. The African members of Congress are owned by AIPAC. And AIPAC is an organization. Look at the origin of AIPAC, and you will see that it started in the early 40s or 50s, and it came to being, or the Jewish Defense League, one of the two, came to being as a result of a Jewish male sexually molesting a young girl, and from that ADL as well as AIPAC, all of them grew from that. So the origin of these organizations are corrupt and are reprehensible anyway. So right now we are seeing Israel at its height, and we are seeing who actually controls this country. We are the United States of Israel, as opposed to the country being a supporting cast for Israel. One other point, and then I'm going to get back to what we're talking about. In Israel, there is free health care and free education. But it's not that way in this country. But this country is paying for it through the billions of dollars that it gives to Israel every year. So, what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you that a country that is extremely racist and a country that is engaged in genocide is being upheld by a country that purports to be democracy when this has never been so. So right now, the things that I have said about Israel, the things that I have said about Charlie Kirk, those things are enough to get me canceled from society and to anyone else for that matter. So this is not going to get any easier. This is going to become even worse than what it is. If we take a careful look at the Constitution and compare it to the history of the country, the Constitution, as it is written, has never been a guiding force in this country. It has always been a form of punishment for those who don't have any power. And the punishment is justifiable through the Constitution. And here we are in the belly of the whale. Here we are sitting in a space that is destructive to the entire world. And here we are, spiritual beings, of being aware of who we are. So, how do we move in this environment? We move by listening to the voice of our ancestors and being guided by those messages. Of course, there are those who struggle with this ancestral hearing, and that's okay. However, you don't have to struggle with it because there are those who are bringing forth the messages from the ancestors that resonate with you. And those things that resonate with you is not resonating the way we have thought about things resonate in the past. It's actually triggering your memory to what has been in you forever and a day. It's triggering the memory of how we were created and for what purpose we were created. And what I have observed is that all of the pain and suffering that we have endured all of these years at the hands of the same people guides us to our purpose. If it were not for the pain and suffering, we would not be guided towards our purpose. And our purpose is to bring to bring balance to humanity and to walk in the fullness of Elohim. Any questions before I continue? Comments or questions? So here we are, understanding, being aware of the spiritual essence of who we are. Right now, there are efforts underway to bring this country to a place where it has a military presence in every state so that can be a crackdown on any people or community who stands in opposition to this government. And regardless of what you may think, there is a reason why so-called Democrats are not doing what they could be doing in terms of voicing their disagreement with this free speech thing and so many other things. It is simply because the essence of the European or the Neanderthal mindset is to dominate the world and to keep everyone under submission. As a matter of truth, while as we speak, there are efforts underway to poison us. And you say that is ridiculous. Well, the food that we eat every day is poisonous. We know that. We know that the medications that we are given are not designed to heal anything. is designed to mask it as it gets worse. And if we read the origin of these synthetic medications that we are using, we will find that Rockefeller is the one who joined with the pharmaceutical companies to create synthetic medication in order to control the health of this country and then the world. So this idea of poisoning us is larger than you think it is. It's more than just a food. There are several other methods being used to do that, especially to the people in Africa. In Africa during the AIDS crisis, there were people who supposed to have been inoculated, and they were injected with AIDS. In order to destroy as many Africans as they could. And you may say, well, what about the rest of the world? They only did it in Africa. And those inoculations came through the World Health Organization. So there is a continuous effort to destroy God. There is a continuous effort to remove the essence of our Creator from the face of this earth in order for them to replace it with them being God. And every effort has been made for us to embrace them as God. And to this day, there are so many of us who are so caught up in religion until we cannot see the truth. We cannot accept the truth. And there are so many of us who desire to be in the space where white men are. And white men speak to black men and give them the false belief that they can sit in those spaces as well as white men are able to sit in those spaces. And as a result of that, we struggle with black men having an affinity for the respect of black women. And you say, well, that is a social thing. No, it's not. The only people who don't know about us and don't know what I'm talking about or don't believe it are the people who are suffering from it. White men know what they are doing. They understand the power that is inherent within those of African descent. They know that power. We are the only ones who don't believe it. And as a result of that, we have suffered all these years, and it's time for that suffering to end. We have been awakened to our purpose. And the thing about it is this: the white men in power knew that the African was woke before the African knew it. And that is the reason they begun talking about a woke generation, the wokeness of the left. That's what they were talking about. That. How did they know that? Because there is an inner knowing that lets them know that your day is coming to an end. That is why they demonize the idea of being woke. Right now, we are in the midst of a country. We are in the midst of a worldwide European event. And that is an event that is bringing European nations to the brink of destruction because of what they have done, but also for the express purpose of being able to bring balance to humanity and bringing humanity to humans. Any questions or comments? Does that make sense?
Grand Rising, everyone. Question: what is it then that we do have that can affect or put a barrier between the European mindset and its God? If its God is money and it feeds on greed and power, then it would seem that we don't have to share the economics of what we have with them. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts as to a barrier between us and that mindset of money, um, that barrier is the mindset of the European, because it makes sure that we never reach a space where we are equal to them in terms of being able to accumulate money or accumulate assets. We are purposely left in a blind spot where a few of us are let through the gateway, and then it's slammed in everybody else's face. And those who made it through the gate are the ones who are most adamant about maintaining this system of oppressive capitalism, because they think that they have made it. So that's what I see as the barrier that separates. But also, I see that the protective barrier is those who are aware of themselves. We who are aware of who we are the protective barrier around all of humanity who is being dominated and oppressed. And that is the reason the ancestors are able to speak, because we have embraced who we are. That's the reason ancestors are being heard. And when we put things in the macro, those words, the energy of those words become a protective barrier for those who don't know any better, our people in particular. And and that is the reason they heard the voices of the ancestors without even knowing they heard it, because we are all spiritually connected. And that shut down the movement of all of our people that said to them, stay at home, without anyone having to send out a memorandum or anyone having to go on social media and say everybody stay at home. I hope I did not ramble, Barbara, and address your question.
And that's from the spiritual perspective. But because we're living in the physical world, there's some physical things that we can do as well that will get our attention getting. Or they're not like all of these folk who are disconnecting from Disney and putting the pressure on these companies that are making billions and billions of dollars off of us who
Yes.
use their services. And there's the recent economic blackout for the last 5 days. I'm waiting to see what the numbers will be on that as well. But those are other ways that we can contribute, not only spiritually first, because that's got to be number one, but also contribute to other folk, quote unquote, seeing the light. And I don't mean the light, the enlightenment. I mean seeing the light as it relates to their pocketbooks, that there are certain things that they can do, and there are things they cannot do if they to the people, and wrongs and ills they can visit upon the people. There are certain things they cannot do, and that we will not allow them to do. That was the perspective I was also coming from.
Okay, I got you. That happened. That well, we can see what happened to our target and understand how effective that is. And speaking on the basis of what you were talking about, one of the Nexstar is seeking to acquire another company, a media company. Well, according to the FCC, no media company is supposed to be able to reach more than 39% of the population. Nexstar's acquisition of this company will give it the power to reach 80% of the population. And it is not just right leaning, it is a company that is in concert with Project 2025. And that part of 2025 is concentrated media within the confines of a company, so that it can be controlled with ease. The other thing that I see in this is I like Hulu. Hulu was established by Rupert Murdoch, and Rupert Murdoch intended to make Hulu what he made Fox, and black folk built Fox. Uh, what I'm saying is that the way Fox was built, it had shows for black folk. It pictured us in sitcoms, and we flocked to Fox. And then when Fox got the viewership that it wanted, what Fox did during football games, especially during the Super Bowl, they would put entertainment on during the halftime at the Super Bowl, but other networks were showing the Super Bowl. So that's how Fox got its contract. So Fox was putting on Hulu shows, sitcoms about us, so that we would flock to Hulu, and he would have another station in conjunction with Fox News. So all of these things are being exposed. So when Barbara talks about the Disney companies who are being shunned because of what happened, this is being done because of the Cosmic Mother. We are being shown by the universe what is happening, but not only that, the universe is also showing us how to battle in this material world in terms of boycotts. But it also is working its will, and working its will means that because of what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, now those companies that were hiding behind the scene, as old people say, throwing a rock and hide his hand, are being exposed for what they are. And as you said, Barbara, we are able to more readily we are able to more readily fight that company through boycotts, and we see how much Target has lost in the marketplace because of our staying out of Target. Am I on the page with you now, Barb?
You were on the page with me when you spoke from the spiritual perspective too.
Okay.
But I wanted to just make the point that, yeah, we stand where we stand spiritually, but there's some underpinning kinds of things that we can do because we are on the physical plane that can help to also reveal people's motives and strike them where their God is.
Yes. Thank you.
Pastor, I have a question.
Sure.
Based on what you were just saying too, I think Tubi is also one of those networks that is
Yes.
designed to draw us in. And so since you were naming the other one, I wanted to name that. But I want to back you up. You said a lot, but I wanted to ask you, is the final push, because they have done everything to have the African male and the African female separated. And now that we're learning who we are and coming and knowing this understanding of who we are, like the yin and the yang, the final piece that's missing is when the African male and African female walk in harmony, come together and recognize we are not fighting against one another, but it takes both of us working together to reach the fullness of power that we have. That's one of my questions. And the other, got two questions here. When you were talking about poisoning us, now that this new regime is in place and in the place of power, what should our response be to being vaccinated now? So I got two different questions there. So if
Okay.
you will, please answer those.
Okay. How do we get Black men and women to understand we have to do this together? We are in the process of doing that every time that we speak about the feminine aspects of our spirituality. Every time that we lend ourselves to embracing the creative femininity embracing the reality of the the female being the protection of the soul, and men being the masculinity being the source that maintains, make sure that femininity exists. How do we do that? How do we see that? As I said, I think yesterday or day before, I'm not sure, that the female has been both mother and father. And the only reason that femininity was able to accomplish that is because of testosterone and the estrogen that goes to both sides of her brain. Masculinity was not able to do that. So the Creator knew that this was coming, this split between the African man and female. And now, how do we do this? We have to continue to put the truth in the macro, because African men, those who voted for Trump, the majority of them did it because they were thinking they were going to get money because they got a $1,200 check. So in essence, they sold their soul for $1,200. And the other part of that is men have been demonstrably anti-Black woman because they have been convinced that the woman needs to stay in her place. And the place that they have been convinced that the woman needs to stay in is a place of submission to maleness. And now that we are able to put things in the macro, males are beginning to see more clearly, if they choose to, of course, more clearly the power and the necessity of the unicity between the female and the male, or femininity and masculinity. And we also must understand something. It does not take all of males to embrace this. It's going to happen regardless. If you think about it, it takes more, it takes one female can balance a whole slew of males, can bring balance to them. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the power of the female only needs the input of masculinity to the degree that it is respected in society. If the African male seeks to continue in the mindset of the European, then that is to his demise. And that will not be a hindrance to who we are. And the reason it would not be a hindrance to who we are is because there are males who are adamant about their support for femininity, understanding and embracing the reality that we would not be in this space of existence if it were not for the strength, the power, and the creativity of African women. So I don't really concern myself that much with trying to bring the overwhelming majority of males to this space, even though I would love to see that. When we look at the male who voted for Kamala Harris, 79%. When we look at females, it was 92% of our folks. So that is more than, honestly, that I expected in the 79% because of the attitude. So I'm going to say this. The males primarily who are looking for the money are males like the barbershop crowd, who think that $1,200 is a lot of money, and without understanding that money is not what makes you a man, without understanding that money does not make you who you are. Being aware of who you were created to be is what makes you who you are. And that barbershop crowd, and I'm not just talking about the barber, I'm talking about that barbershop crowd, are the ones who have been more submissive to the attitude of Project 2025, i.e. Donald Trump, than any group of us in this country. And until we get that barbershop crowd to understand that it is being manipulated and used as a battle, as a weapon against our community, we will continue to have these questions raised, but it will not stifle our move forward. Does that help you, Kathy?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And would you answer my second question, please, if there are no questions on what you just said?
Are there any questions on what I just said? The other question was about the poison, right? Would you repeat your question?
I said, now with the Trump regime in place, what should our response be to the vaccine, since we know in the past they have used vaccines and things of that nature to poison us? What is our response now?
Well, let me do that, say that, based upon what I've seen and read. The COVID vaccine, COVID was purposely released. And there were a group of people, inclusive of the billionaires, whose names, I don't know all their names, but some of them I do. And they, in conjunction with the United Nations, WHO, World Health Organization in particular, came to a conclusion that in order for them, meaning white men, to stay in power and to increase their power, there needed to be an increase in poverty and a decrease in population. And they made the decision that the decrease in population, that those deaths were, whatever the deaths were acceptable numbers, as long as they were able to keep people in poverty and increase the depth of poverty that they are in. And what happened is when they made that decision, the decision was made what they were going to do with the COVID virus, and they called together with them Pfizer and Moderna. And Pfizer and Moderna were the only two who were granted permission to do the COVID vaccine. And the COVID vaccine was done by them. Let me stop right there. Ask yourself this question. Why is it that out of all the money that could be made from that COVID vaccine, why is it there were only two companies who were permitted to develop that vaccine? And quite frankly, it was not a development of a vaccine as much as it was the distribution of it, because they already knew what they were going to do with it. So what happened is once they released COVID, they, of course, used the vaccine. And we were on the sidelines until we saw what was happening. And when we saw that there were rich white people who were going into Harlem, paying $10,000, $20,000 just to get an injection, that's when we did it, if you remember that. So the COVID vaccine was centered in neighborhoods of poverty, and the words that the Apple, not the Apple man, the what's his name?
Maybe Bill Gates, maybe, or
Bill Gates will come on TV. What did he say? He talked about the number of deaths would take place as a result of COVID, and he was adamant about the vaccine, and what they found, particularly in Africa, is that the villages who refused to take the vaccine, they didn't have any problem. The ones who took it, a lot of them died. So in the beginning, the vaccine was not what it ended up being. And right now, if you notice, there is not a push for the COVID vaccine as it was in the beginning. And the herd immunity idea during the time of COVID was for the express purpose of getting people actually to die from COVID. That was the acceptable death rate to those who are in power. And you say the question is, so what do we do about vaccines? Well, this is the answer to that question that I see and have been shown. And that is, you cannot kill God. What does that mean? Regardless of what's in that vaccine, regardless of what they have put in the foods, it doesn't matter. They cannot kill us, especially when you are aware of who you are. You cannot kill a spiritual being. You can weaken a spiritual body, the body that the spirit lives in, but that body can be rejuvenated by the spirit that lives in it. The reason it was more prominent in poor neighborhoods is because there was less opportunity to feed the body properly, because moving all the grocery stores out of poverty-ridden communities was for the purpose of reducing the population. And that is the reason these corner stores, these bodegas, only have canned food in them. That is the reason you have stores that sells grocery like Dollar General, stores like that, because the foods that they sell are made for them, and those foods are highly processed beyond what's in a regular grocery store. So I'm saying that we are able to protect not only ourselves, but we are able to protect humanity from this onslaught of greed and this murderous, barbaric behavior of the Neanderthal mindset, of the billionaires who are running this world as we speak. Does that help you?
It does. I asked that question because I had heard something about they were changing the vaccine now so that it could change some, and I don't know the terminology. I can't remember exactly what I heard, but it was able to change the composition of the human, something in the composition of humanity, basically us. And so that's why I asked that question. I can't fully remember what it was saying it was supposed to be doing now, but I appreciate the answer that you gave us. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's-
mRNA. Was someone about to say something?
No, I was just going to say now they also are pushing a vaccine for people over 60 and older.
And to me, that's death. mRNA can be coded to change your DNA. Whatever is encoded in mRNA, it influences your DNA. And in influencing your DNA, they can have an effect on your brain, or let me put it this way, on any of the functions of the body. And I honestly believe, beyond the shadow of a doubt, I do believe that mRNA is being used for the demise of humanity, not totally, but to the point where there are only left enough people who can be controlled, and the others are so deep in poverty until they cannot spare the time to try to figure out what's going on and to do something about it. Poverty has been used as a silencer throughout the history of this country, especially after slavery. And this, what I mean by it has been used as a silencer is because if you are struggling to make ends meet, it is very difficult for you to be focused on what needs to be changed or what you need to be addressing in order for you to progress health-wise in this country or on this earth for that matter. I'm done right now. The questions or comments? Now, let me hastily say this. There are things that are happening behind the scenes and always have been that I will not discuss, and they are going to be coming to the forefront. I want to remind you, remember who you are. These things are designed to put you in a state of fear. The state of fear that Abridged speech was, the fear was directed towards us as well as other marginalized people. But it went beyond that because of Donald Trump's ego and got Kimmel. They never intended for that to happen. The universe is making sure that everything is being exposed, regardless of who has to go through the pain to expose it. There are people who believe that they talk about Donald Trump, being the thug, Donald Trump being a dictator. Donald Trump is too dumb to be a dictator. And I mean that I say that with my whole chest. Donald Trump does not have the mental acuity to be a dictator or a thug. Donald Trump is a figurehead for the thugs. If you look in Donald Trump's cabinet and you look at the billionaires who support him, those are the thugs. They know what they are doing. He does not have a clue. The only thing that he ever wanted was to be a real billionaire, and they made sure that he became one. Now they are using him, and they have put up a figurehead who have trouble figuring out who he is in terms of even his name, for that matter. They have put this figurehead up to direct our attention towards him, direct the anger towards him. That is not who we are. We do not direct anger towards anyone, not even the thugs who are doing what they are doing. What we do is remove the energy source from them so they don't have the power to do anything except fail. And if we are focused on what's happening in this environment, there is failure after failure, meaning that every time that they make a move to do something, something else happens that they did not expect to overshadow or to change it. Look at the immigration thing. With immigration, Holman was caught by the FBI. They gave him $50,000 to get contracts for him. They were posing as businessmen, and he took the $50,000. And the Trump administration killed the investigation because Holman is the guy who leads ICE. So now that has been exposed, that is another opening that white folks can use to deal with this onslaught of what is being termed a desire for authoritarianism, which has always been here anyway. So it is instances like that we pay attention to because we see them as wounds in the beast. If you can see the beast and you see the the um, the abridgment of freedom of speech with Kimbrell, and you see the bribing thing with Holman, and what are you seeing? You are seeing wounds to the beast. You're seeing the beast suffering from wounds that are going to continue until the beast is dead, until it falls apart, until it shatters under its own weight. That's where we are headed, and it is coming to its demise because of what it is seeking to do to humanity, because of what we are doing in order to be a protective screen for humanity. So we have no reason to be afraid of anything. And I know when you think about the amount of money that all these people have and how these people are seated around the world and how much control they have over social media and seemingly everything else. Please understand that money is the God, as Barbara said earlier. That's the God. And the God that is created by a Neanderthal mindset is simply an illusion. And the Elohim that was brought into existence by Elohim, through the cosmic mother, has all the energy and power that is necessary to deflate the illusion of a government, of a group of men who are able to overcome the whole world. We are in our space because we were purposed for a time such as this. Do not fear anything that your eyes see or that they put in space where you can hear it, because it is designed to create fear in you. You are Elohim. You are African. You are a spiritual being. You have melanin, and nothing can kill melanin, neither can anything take the melanin from you and use it against you. Melanin it is a technology that does more things for life in this earth than we can name. So I am saying, every time that you have a tinge of fear, remind yourself that you're Elohim. Remind yourself that you're melanated. Remind yourself that you are here for this purpose, and that purpose is to bring balance to humanity. You're not here to kill any man. You're not here to kill any human. We are here to change the mindset of evilness, the unrighteousness, so that righteousness can prevail in the earth. Never lose sight of the purpose for our being here. We are here to walk in the fullness of Elohim by virtue of creating in our image and likeness. And that is a mindset as opposed to a physical likeness. Ron?
No, I'm good. I'm
Any
good.
questions or comments? What I'm seeing a pattern here lately, that we are being shown how things are functioning and what's going on and how we approach them spiritually.
Yeah.
We are being prepared for something that is to come. We were already prepared for where we are now. We are being prepared to see the manifestation of a devastating effect to the governance of this world. There is going to be a devastating blow that the governance of this world is going to receive. And the fallout from that blow will be fear if you don't stay focused. The fallout from that blow will be suffering. The fallout from that blow is necessary so that the foundation can be uprooted for the express purpose of building a new foundation for humanity to rest upon. In the same manner that the kingdoms of the world rest upon that foundation, the foundation, when there were African kingdoms in this earth. They were not tribes, they were not villages, they were kingdoms. And these kingdoms, the foundation of them were covered by another foundation that was brought into effect through murder and through being barbarians. And now you say, why did that not change then? It is up to us to change it. It is up to us. We are not only Africans, descendants of the African, we are also the indigenous people of all the earth, inclusive of this land called America. We have the energy, we have the power to do whatever the Creator has told us to do or shown us that we are to do. We have access to the Akashic consciousness, a consciousness that is more viable than anything ever understood or created. And to this day, even though we are aware that the Akashic consciousness exists, we cannot explain exactly what it is, but we know it exists because we are saying and seeing things that we never saw before, that we never spoke before. That is because we have been made aware not only of being Elohim, but the consciousness that guides us, the ancestors that does a step down to the what's coming from the Akashic consciousness, so that we can not only understand it, we can see it manifest, as well as we are able to share it in the macro for the benefit of humanity. I'm done.
Questions or comments, anyone?
Ashe.
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 Okay. Are we done? Well, thank you for your energy, and please write down any thoughts or feelings that you may have, and we'll resume tomorrow evening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for your presence, your energy, and enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Family.
Thank you.